stop the car.
You see me?
So Trickster is a series with a lot of visual effects. And that's because we're trying to create these supernatural worlds that are created in Eden Robinson's books. And as Eden likes to say, when I'm in my imagination, I don't have to think about a budget for VFX. But that's a very different story when you're realizing a show for television where you're thinking, how are we gonna make these monsters? How are we gonna make it look like we're seeing spirits and things like that? When we worked on VFX, I'd never had a VFX supervisor on set before. That was something that was completely new to me. We worked with Rocket Science VFX, and Tom Plaskett would come to set, and he was really helpful. We really collaborated on those shots so that we would get the best in terms of the translation to what the VFX would eventually look like down the road, which is really hard to know when you're just in the middle of shooting something and maybe it's just a green screen that's up. And to know when to make something practical versus when to enhance it with VFX later on. And then we worked with a special effects house that literally cast the character and made like a skin suit, which a dancer would then inhabit and come on set, and it was like hours and hours of makeup and prosthetics, and they would transform into the skinless beast. And I'd never worked with prosthetics before, so it was really interesting to see how prosthetics and VFX go together. So a lot of planning went into basically creating those worlds, creating those creatures. So Trickster was shot in both Kitamaat Village in British Columbia, as well as North Bay, Ontario. And our story is set in British Columbia, and specifically Kitamaat Village. So we only had a certain amount of time that we could shoot in British Columbia, and therefore we had to make everything we shot in Northern Ontario match to British Columbia. Some of the ways we worked around that was we worked with VFX plates where we would basically put the Rocky Mountains behind landscapes in Northern Ontario. So much of Trickster is set in the forest and in the landscape, and so we were able to find places that at least looked similar to one another. I think Trickster has pretty close to 200 VFX shots, and each one of those shots translates into hours and hours and hours of planning, note sessions, going back and forth on creating assets to basically bring those things to life on screen.